Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. It is a little bit noisy outside today, so if there's a bit of like background noise, cars going past, things like that, I do apologize, but I really wanted to film this video for you guys, so I didn't want to wait any longer. Today I'm going to be talking about books that I found surprisingly good, so maybe things that someone recommended me or that are typically aren't in like my normal like reading genres, I suppose. Stuff that I wasn't expecting to enjoy but that I really did. So I'm gonna dive right into it because I feel like they're all relatively well-known books. They just weren't to me at the time, which is not hard to do because I tend to live under a rock. So the first one I'm going to start with is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Now I found this for like $1 or $2 at a secondhand book sale, and I picked it up because the cover that I had was really intriguing. I post photos of all the covers that I have as long as I can find them, but yeah, the one that I had was really intriguing and it had a big sticker on it saying that it was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and I was like, look, it's gotta be good. Did I know that there was like movies and musicals and stuff written about it at the time? No, didn't have a freaking clue. I know they exist now but I still haven't watched them, but I definitely want to one day. It was so much better than I thought it was going to be. It took a little bit for me to get into it because I was like, definitely not what I'd normally read, but I think the perspective of them, like how it's written in the form of letters, was just absolutely brilliant. I loved it. By the end of the book, I was like glued to it, speed reading, cried, and you know that a book has really gotten to me when it's made me cry. I remember talking to my like best friends about it and being like, oh my god, it's such a good book and I just didn't know, you guys should totally read it if you haven't. And literally all of them were like, Michaela, you were so late to the party on this. Like, I've seen the movies, there's musicals, there's all these things that you should get into. And I felt like such an idiot because that was like the prime example of me living under a rock, of just, I picked up a book because it looked kind of pretty and it turns out it's actually like, what I'm trying to say is if you haven't heard of or read The Color Purple, I would 100% recommend it because it's one of those books that maybe doesn't look like much or feel like much when you're in the first couple of chapters, but it is so good. That's a book that I would definitely read again, even though like I know everything. You know, you kind of just have those books that you're like, I wouldn't read it a million times, but I'd definitely read it again. Maybe in a couple years to see how like my perspective on the book has changed. That'd be quite cool actually. Maybe I'll do that because I think I'll love it regardless. It's just such a good piece of work. The next one, and this one here I actually haven't quite finished. It is my current read, but I'm pretty close. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. It's called The Lost Bookshop and it's by Evie Woods. Now I got this book given to me because I'm in a group on Facebook that's like Girls Who Read Australia or something like that, and they do like a monthly thing where you can post your Amazon wish list. Oh hello, hi Tiggy. You can post your Amazon wish list and people will like maybe buy a book and ship it to you. So that's how I got this book. Someone ever so kindly actually sent it to me and I was so excited. I dove right in as soon as I could. And it's been pretty good so far. I really, again, it's one of those ones that I heard people in the group talking about it. I saw a couple posts about it. And then when I looked at it, the cover was really intriguing. So I put it on my wish list thinking maybe one day I'll buy it or get to it. And I really didn't expect anyone to send it to me. But because they did, I just felt so special that I felt like I had to get into it as soon as possible. I'm, yeah, about 2/3 of the way through the book so far and I am really enjoying it. I do read very slowly, but it's kind of captured me in the way that I read it because it's done from different perspectives and it goes in order. So it will go person 1, 2, 3, person 1, 2, 3. So when I sit down to read it, I make sure that I read it in lots of 3 chapters at a time, minimum. And then there's no like you can't read 4 because then you're partially like all the stories are running sort of concurrently or like side by side. So I read in sets of 3. So usually at the moment I've been sitting down and reading 6 chapters at a time, but it is so good so far. I just have everything crossed that the ending of this book is going to be just as good. I think it is because the more I get through it, the more I'm like, oh my god, it's so cute. And then like right when you think something's gonna happen and someone's gonna get reunited, they get into like an argument or something. It's very muchly not my normal type of book, but I'm so glad that person sent it to me because right now it's, I'm very glad that I decided to kick into it when I did, because I had a really bad reading year last year and I needed something to pull me out of that, and this has very much done so. I was about to say this is another one that I would recommend you read, but I'm just going to blanket this video with every book I've mentioned in this video is something that I think you should read because it's things that have been surprisingly good. This next one is super popular. I feel like everybody has read it. I've read it once. I actually have it planned to read again when I finish The Lost Bookshop, and it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. I have to sneeze. Now I put this one on there purely because I read a lot of like self-help, self-development kind of books, and I typically really struggle with them because I don't like feeling like a book is lecturing me or like trying to force me under their word to do what they want me to do or what they think is right. So a lot of self-help books really don't agree with me, but this one was the first one that I really sat down and read and thought, holy fuck. Like, it genuinely, this book has changed my life. It changed the way I look at things, because I was a person a few years ago before reading this book that gave far too many fucks about far too many things, and it genuinely was just the time in my life where I was really, really struggling with things, and I sat down and I read this book because I was like, you know what, everyone goes on about it, why not give it a go? And it genuinely did change my mindset into 90% of the time, the things that you're worrying about, you really can't control, you can't change, you're worrying for no reason, and you know what, whatever's going to happen is just inevitable, so there's no point giving too many fucks. Or any fucks, really, a lot of the time. Like I said, I read this book originally in a time that I was struggling a little bit, and I think that's why I want to read it again. I do have a goal for myself before I turn 30 to read 5 self-help books, so this is one of them. I chose to reread this one instead of adding a brand new one in because I know that it's good. I know that it helped me in the past, and I think at the point in my life where I am, I do just need a little bit of realigning, refocusing, and getting my shit together, and that is including gathering up all of my fucks that I'm giving to places where they should not be. So if you don't like self-help books and you struggle like I did, give this one a go because it does have a different approach to it. It feels like talking to a friend or talking to maybe like a granddad or something like that who just has these amazing stories to tell you from like an amazing colourful life, and every single story and everything that's talked about you'll be hooked on because it's not a lecture, it's not, oh, it's coming from me because I'm a doctor and I know things. It just feels like someone cares about you and they're talking to you on your level. So I really like it. I have a lot of respect for this book. My battery's gonna die. How good. Okay, this next one is also a very, very obvious one. It is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. Now, this is not up my alley at all. I do fantasy. I love fantasy books. I do not do romance. I do not do smut. I do not do anything of those genres. I find romance books inherently boring, but I feel like this one has just the right amount of mix, and it kind of does lean a little bit more towards the fantasy side of things, and that's why I still really, really enjoyed it. I have read the first one and the second one in the ACOTAR series, and I half read the third one before I got really distracted and never finished it. So I can't talk about the whole series as a whole. The first book, very, very good. Second book, honestly might be one of my favourite books of all time. It was fantastic. And again, coming from a person who's made inherently uncomfortable by smut and romance, it's a really good read. There's still a lot of fantasy, there's a lot of world building, and character development, which is really important. And obviously it is kind of sprinkled in there, so if you're a person who maybe has heard of smut but you're a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit nervous about it all, I think these books are a really good introduction to it. Does it mean that I'm going to turn around and read every fucking smut romance book in existence? Absolutely not, because that's still not who I am. But this one, I'm really interested to see where the story goes. I want to see what happens, and when I do go back to finish the series, I'm going to start from the start again. I'm going to reread the first 2 books and just go all the way through, because I'm kind of hooked on like what's going to happen in the world and with certain characters, and to be fair, the romance is just like a on the side for me. I know a lot of people read it just for that, but I mean, it's there, it's great, it's whatever, but what's going on in the story, you know? And it's funny that I haven't read it yet because I got a couple of friends into reading this because I talked all the time about how good the first book was and then started going extra hard with how good the second book is. Like, it's amazing. I have like 2 or 3 friends that I convinced to read this series, and they sat down and they speed read through it, and now they're like, Michaela, come on girl. So yeah, maybe if you are looking for something that's fantasy with like a little bit of another genre mixed in, you could try this one. I think it's a nice little slow introduction, but I think she just has a real talent for writing about fantasy worlds. And I know a lot of people say that the first book in ACOTAR, so A Court of Thorns and Roses in the series, they say that it's bad or slow, or I didn't think it was at all, but I suppose that's because I am a fantasy buff and I really, really love kind of like the background building, so setting out who each character is and what each location is and what it looks like and what it does. So for me, it didn't feel slow. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think it had the perfect amount of groundwork to be able to go into the next book and have it just like hit the ground running. So I would much prefer having the first book in a series be really slow and do all the hard yards, rather than get 2 or 3 books in and have them circling back and being like, oh yeah, this is what that place was, by the way, because it's like, we should already know that by now. Like, we're in the series, we shouldn't have you introducing random things that you forgot to explain. So personally, I love the way that A Court of Thorns and Roses was written. Oh, this next one, it's Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I really like him, and I owned this book for a very, very long time. I bought it as a teenager because I was in a bookstore looking at Brandon's books because all the covers are so beautiful, but I didn't know what one to pick, and some random guy walked up to me and he said, if you're new to the series, I recommend this one. And he pulled out Alloy of Law and he said, it's a part of a world, so you will get to know the characters, but it's not a part of a huge storyline. It's essentially a standalone, so you can read it and everything will make sense. And I was like, hell yeah, love a good recommendation, that makes sense. So I brought it, and then it promptly sat on my shelf for about 4 years. And I read like the first 2 chapters of it and then put it down, and it sat there for like another 7. No reason why, like it wasn't bad or anything like that. I just get distracted. That's literally the only reason. And then Mark and I ended up sitting down and reading it together, because we do that a lot. We used to do that a lot, and I would love to get back into it when we get our own place, fingers crossed. We sat down and read it together, and it was so good. So whoever that mystery guy was, no idea, but thank you for introducing me to Brandon's books, because he's another one now that I would just love to get like everyone in that he's written, you know, because that's one of my goals with Raymond E. Feist, is to get all of his books and read just everything. I would like to do that with Brandon Sanderson as well, even just based off reading that one book. You can tell that he just has this flair for writing and for characters and humour. It's so funny. The characters in Alloy of Law are so funny that you just like, I remember reading through it and going, oh, he's such a shithead. Like, you feel like they're your best friends and that you know them, and that's what I really, really loved about the book. Also, it is a little bit like, I don't know if you'd say fantasy-esque, but, you know, they've got like powers and weapons and things like that, so it's very exciting. There's a teeny tiny smattering of like a little bit of a hint of a romance in there, and that's the kind of thing that I like. I don't like books that are all about, you know, trying to get laid. Probably the best way to put it. But yeah, there's a little bit in there that just kind of hints in the background and keeps things fresh and interesting, but very, very good book. But anything, honestly, anything by Brandon, I think people will enjoy. If you read Alloy of Law and love it, you can pick up pretty much anything of his and you will love it. I've got 3 left and I'm trying really hard to do them before my battery runs out. The next one is called Body Count. It is by P.D. Martin, and this was one of my first forays into like crime and thriller books, because I love true crime. I don't really do horror movies or anything as much, but I'm slowly kind of getting into them. I love a good thriller TV show. I love everything like crime and a little bit gory and things like that, so I thought, why not try it in books and see how we go. And Body Count was very, very good. I will say it started out a little bit like for me, but I think that was because it's just not what I'm used to reading, so it did take me a while to adjust to, you know, the pace of the book might be a little bit slower, and I'm used to, you know, fantasy and sword and a lot of world building, a lot of background development, but when you've got a book that's set in like modern day time, you don't have to do any of that stuff because you just know. So I was very much like, is it lacking something? Is it missing something? And it's like, no, there's just, you don't have to learn a whole bunch of things to be able to read this book. You can just sit down and get straight into it. And it was very, very good. I can't remember exactly when I read it. I know it was a couple of years ago though. I think it was 2023. It was either 23 or 24, but it was a very, very good year for books because I also found the next one, which is The Treatment by Mo Hayder. Again, this one was a lot more intense than Body Count. Okay, I'm so glad I read Body Count first because I was like, okay, we're getting here. There's some graphic detail, you know, but it's not too heavy. It's pretty fast paced. And then you get to The Treatment. That book's fucked. Don't get me wrong, it's very, very good, and there's a whole series that I have full intention to read. I will be reading The Treatment again and then, you know, continuing with the series, but it's a significant step up from Body Count. So like me, if maybe you're thinking about getting into crime and stuff, don't jump straight into The Treatment by Mo Hayder. It's very intense. There's a lot of detail. It does jump around perspective, which is something that I love more than anything in books. And it's kind of needed, to be honest, because it gives you a little bit of a break, because obviously things with certain characters are going on, and it just, like, it kind of does actually make your skin crawl. It's written so well. Too well, almost. No, not too well at all. It's fantastic, but it is just like, sometimes you read and you're like, oh my god, this is so heavy, so sad, you know, I just feel for these characters. And then by it changing perspective, it does kind of give you a little bit of a fresh air and a bit of a break to just go, oh my god, that's a lot. So yeah, both books very, very good. I would say they're just on quite different spectrums. Like, don't get me wrong, Body Count is still intense, so just be aware if you're going into that, you know, there is some stuff in it that could be triggering to people, but The Treatment, that's definitely going to trigger the shit out of you. So just be careful. If you're gonna read these two, I do still highly recommend it because they were fantastic books, but just make sure you like read the back, read the reviews, see if it's something that that it's going to be okay for you to read, basically, because yeah, it's a lot. And the very last book is another one that people are going to be like, oh my god, what do you mean? But it was My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Now, yes, there's a movie, there's a book, they've both been out for like my entire freaking life, but I had never read it because, again, it's a genre that I'm not typically partial to, but I will say it was really good. It was really good. And I read it, I was glued to this book, okay, let me just put it that way. From the second I opened it, glued to it, flew through it. And I worked in an office at the time that I was reading it, so I used to sit and read it on like my lunch break, and it started getting really awkward because we were getting to the parts that were like really hard emotionally. And I remember I finished reading this book in my car at like 7 a.m. or 7:30, right before I went into work, bawling my fucking eyes out in the car because I had finished the book. And then I had to go in there and everyone was like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? We can see you look a little bit upset. And all I said was, I just finished reading my book. And all of them knew what I was reading because they all used to ask me when they'd come in on the lunch break. They'd be like, what are you reading now? I literally just went, I finished my book, and they all went, oh. So like, you know, if you've read the book, you know how good the book is. I do actually really want to watch the movie. I have seen snippets of it, parts of it, but never ever the whole thing. So I think I would like to sit down and watch the whole thing at least once, just to kind of put together the clips I've seen and get a little bit more context around them. But from what I have seen, it looks very, very good. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't, because the book was fantastic. And if you have a book that's that good and you manage to fuck up the movie, what are you doing? But yeah, it actually kind of opened my eyes to maybe reading a little bit more than like fantasy and crime and things like that. And I think I'm going to read more of her books specifically because I loved, obviously, My Sister's Keeper so much. And then if her books are good and kind of like keeping me going, I'll branch out and try a couple of different authors, because I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm gonna stick with Jodie for a little bit and read a few more of her books, just give them a try. And then, you know, maybe we'll find something else that we like, because I don't know if it's the genre that I'm more, wow, brain off. I don't know if it's the genre that I like more than I think I did, or whether it was just Jodie's writing is what I was trying to say. So I'm going to try a few more of her books, and then you never know. Maybe I'm adapting and growing as a human being that doesn't just want to read about dragons and magic anymore, although I highly, highly doubt that. I love me dragons and magic. That is my last book for this list. I am trying to read a lot more new and broad and random things this year, so maybe in a few months or next year I'll be able to kind of update this list and add a few more books to it. I am trying to stray away outside of my boundaries and feel new things at the moment, so definitely leave me some comments down below if there's anything that you think I should give a go. I was going to say that you think I might like based off this list, but it doesn't even matter because I'm going to be trying any and everything this year. So give me some book recommendations, give me some movie recommendations if there are movie adaptations to the books, because we can do both. We can do like side by sides, it doesn't matter. I'm open and willing. Other than that, thank you so much for watching another video of mine. If you've made it this far, I always appreciate it. Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed, leave me that comment recommending me a book, and if you want to see more of my content, please do subscribe. I post at 7 AM every Sunday, 7 AM Brisbane time. Sorry. How do I fuck this up every single time I film? Every single time I film a video, I mess this up. I post at 7 AM Brisbane time every Sunday. I will see you next week. Bye.